title yet. We're working on that. I am also learning Blender. It's one of those things that I've said I've always wanted to learn, and yeah, Edgy has been learning Blender on and off again for the past few months. He wanted to learn how to do this to make effects for videos and stuff. The end goal is to make assets for 2 projects, one of them hopefully coming soonish. I think Edgy might be working on that right now. He rendered this pretty neat background for me. That's pretty bitchin'. Yeah, it is. I had to help him with it though. So let's talk about Blender. Edgy has messed with Blender a few years ago, but we were on a pretty subpar laptop and had no idea what we're doing. Edgy, he isn't the most patient person. I'll just say that. Flash forward to the end of 2020, and Edgy decided to work on Blender to make some scenes and just make some stuff. First thing he made, which he planned to use as an intro, but he ended up not liking it. But we're gonna show it anyways. Hopefully Edgy doesn't kill me over it. That clip was about 3 days of Edgy and I messing with Blender. 3 days. For that. Yeah, the water simulation thing was the biggest struggle. We had to look up several tutorials to get it to work. It included adding an empty object that rotates around the ocean, the plane that we put the ocean modifier on, in order to control the waves. That was a nightmare to set up. Then we had to position the glaciers in there and arrange them so you couldn't see the bottoms of them because they were just flat at the bottom, which looks weird and doesn't look right. That sounds hella complicated. It felt like it was, but looking back and looking at other things people do in Blender, that's probably not that bad. The other thing we had to add was the fog. That was surprisingly easy. We had to dump a cube in there and then size it up, then delete the principled BSDF in the shader editor, then replace it with a principled volume shader, then plug the volume shader into the volume of the output. Then we had to lower the density and then add in a color ramp and link that to the density, then add a noise texture and add that to the FAC and then lower the scale. Bruh, you call that easy? All of those nodes are super confusing. I don't understand half of what you just said. How the hell do you read any of this stuff anyways? Look at the ice textures for the glaciers. Oh my god! Good fucking lord, man. Yeah, that was a pain to do. Looking back at it, I don't fully understand how it works either. I know Edgy had some trouble with the Blender tools and the shortcuts. And if y'all somehow don't know, mans has no chill. I recorded some of it on my phone, though no video, sadly. Shit! Oh, what the fuck? Why does that not work like in the video? Wait, slow down. Voronoi texture doesn't even have the goddamn option anymore. Where's the damn crackle option? Hold on, where's that setting now? What the Todd, get in here, this shit is pissing me off. I think that was for the scratched metal thingy Edgy was trying later on. Oh yeah, you're right, my bad. I didn't label this clip at all. Making this took a while, and it's because a lot of the tutorials we found were for older versions of Blender. And it looks like in 2.9, which is the current version of Tommy making this, they changed how a couple of nodes work, which made following along difficult. After this ice texture thing, Edgy wanted to try something different, so he made this. That looks sweet. Originally it was gonna be the glacier thing again, but Edgy had the idea to go for a more abstract look. So he went for a black ocean and black glaciers with a neon glow effect to it. He decided that glowing orb thing too, just to add more light to the scene, and made a star background, which is actually really easy to do. The biggest struggle though was getting the water to loop seamlessly, and it still doesn't do that despite following the instructions to a T in the tutorials we were looking at. How bad was the texture for this? Not that bad, actually. Hey, alright. That ain't too bad. We had another version that had the camera and the orb zoom in, but when Edgy stood in front of it and he had me watch it, I started to get a bit nauseous, so to avoid giving everyone a headache, we just cut that out. Then we cut out all of the glaciers and moved the orb and created an ice texture for text to make our intro. Ah yeah, that's pretty cool. How come we don't have a Blender outro? I don't know. I don't want to ask Edgy for one because I don't want him to throw the computer out of the airlock. Speaking of Edgy, what is he doing anyways? This piece of shit. I fucking hate this setting. What the fuck is this? I'm fucking done. I swear to God. So we got Blender. What do you? We might want to just leave him alone for a little bit. You want to talk about your background? Yeah. Now, one day, Edgy asked me if I wanted a background and what I wanted for it. I told him to make something trippy as hell. The first attempt wasn't that, but it was kinda cool. Here it is. Doesn't look bad, but it's not trippy enough, Jeff. Nah, we went back to the drawing board on that, but the second one looks like something out of one of my acid trips. Edgy had to use a couple of modifiers on some basic icospheres, including mirror, solidify, and smooth to do this. I asked Edgy if he remembered how he did it, and he looked at me with the most blank expression ever and, oh, wait a minute, I have this recorded too. Dog, my brain is running on empty right now. I looked up and like 4 fucking hours have passed since I started to try this in Blender. Blender is a complete time sink. You think you're gonna make something simple, and then it turns out to be the opposite of that, and you look up and you wasted 4 hours of your time where you could be gaming or doing something else. 2 hours, I said. 2 hours, I said. I was only gonna be doing this for 2 hours. Edgy has this habit of, once he starts something, it's really hard to get him to stop. Sleep be damned. I'm not sure exactly what he did. I didn't watch him make it, so it's hard to tell just by looking at it, but it looks cool. I know we had to do something with wireframe in there, but I'm not sure how. Yeah, do we want to ask him how he made your background? I'm fucking sick of this shit. This is fucking ridiculous. I'm gonna beat somebody's ass. What the fuck is this? Fuck this shit. I think we need to move on to the character models and the sword. I think if we ask him, he might take one of our heads off. Aight. Edgy wanted to try and make a character model, so I gave him a random doodle I had done a little while ago to see if he could do that. I'll show the drawing on the screen. He made that? Kind of? Edgy had never tried something like that before, so we tried to look up a bunch of tutorials, try and make the body, you know, to fit it under the clothes, and then we were gonna apply the clothes on top. This turned out to be a frustrating mess. A lot of the tutorials we watched kept telling us to use the grab tool to manipulate the vertices and edges. Don't do that, by the way, if you want to have your vertices stay neat. Just don't. It causes all kinds of havoc. Use the transform tool. It's way better. We have at least 3 different messed up attempts sitting on our computer. We spent at least 2 days on this, probably more, and we had to phone a friend of ours called Joker Blade for help. Looking back on this model and just the whole process, we could have made this a lot easier for ourselves if we had known that the knife tool was a thing. Man, that shit was painful to watch. Imagine trying to make that shit. After, I don't know how many hours, this is what we got. It's not done yet, right? No, we have to add bandages to the body and add the twin cape in the back, which means we're gonna have to figure out how cloth works. Edgy was messing around with it and was trying to add fur to it just a little bit, just so it, so it's not as flat looking. And the computer did not like us doing this and started to have some problems with it, trying to map the fur on there, so we're probably gonna have to come back to that at some point, or just abandon it altogether. I don't know what he wants to do. Man, that's nuts. Is it animated yet? Fuck no. After Edgy made the hooded character, we don't have a name for this thing. It's just hooded character. It's loosely based on the drawing, because we couldn't get that 100%. At least not without hurling the computer out of the airlock. We decided we should make one of the swords I drew to go with it. That's a pretty cool sword, but I imagine you'd probably cut yourself using it. Oh, it's not practical at all. That's probably the most impractical sword I've ever drawn in my life. I don't even know. I would not recommend trying to swing that at all, even if you could, because it'd probably be too heavy. But it turns out this was not easy to make at all. Todd, Edgy, and Joker were working on this shit for a couple days. I was on caffeine duty making coffee for Edgy and tea for Todd. Oh, and I was also handing out the booze to keep Edgy from flipping the desk because he was getting close. Yeah. The more we worked on it, the more it ended up looking like a spider instead of the weird blade shapes we wanted to go with originally. So we just settled on making it a spider sword, because trying to change it seemed like it'd just be a mess and we were all tired at that point. Texturing surprisingly wasn't that bad. We had to play around with the metal texture and the texture for the ring-like bit for a while, but I think it turned out pretty good. See for yourselves. Yeah, that looks pretty sick, but isn't there like one more left? Yeah. Alright, what's the story about this beast thing? It was my idea. I take full responsibility if Edgy ends up going on a rampage in here. I had the idea to try and make a game out of these drawings since we have one character model done. So we thought, why don't we make a game with just the player character and a boss enemy, and the whole game's you just fight this thing. A boss rush with one boss, basically. So I gave Edgy this drawing I made to try and make this into a character model, and I'll admit, I didn't spend that a lot of time on this. I just wanted him to get the idea. You know, honestly, it wasn't too bad until we got to the face. Thankfully, we learned how to use the knife tool to cut up some of the faces so we could extrude in places we needed to make the spikes and everything. We started with the spine and we made a segment, then copied it a bunch of times and added all the spikes and ribs and then joined them all together. And then from there, we branched out to the front legs and the feet, which was a bit tedious, but it's okay. The back legs were a bit trickier just because we had to make them slightly different for it to make sense visually. The neck was also tough because of the neck bones, because we were trying to keep them from clipping into the actual base of the neck, which made manipulating them a little bit harder than it probably needed to be, and there's probably a smarter way to do this, but we didn't think of it. We couldn't get the large shoulder spines to look right with or close to what we had in the drawing, so we just made them just two giant spikes, because why not? Alright, so where does this become a pain in the ass? The head. Getting the basic shape took a lot of attempts, and the mirror tool did not work because what we did was we made it a plane and then got the rough shape and then extruded that out, and then we tried to mirror it so that way we had it on both sides, and The mirror tool just would not work with it. So we had to build up a half a head and put all the details and shapes we needed, and then we had to use the symmetrize option to make the other half. That worked better, but the problem was the halves wouldn't merge correctly, so we had to drag them together and then combine a ton of vertices together at the center because it was causing a problem. We then discovered we had a lot of odd things going on with some of the faces and the geometry in the head, and we had to undo some stuff. We had to delete some edges, replace some. It's not the greatest, and now the face is like not symmetrical at all, which honestly I kind of like it, but at the same time, there's still some weirdness going on in there. Joker had to help us out with the face quite a bit. It was just screen sharing through Discord with voice chat on. Damn, that sounds annoying as hell, I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, it kind of was. The teeth were easy, but we did have to get Joker to help us with getting the teeth in the mouth without having the teeth clipping through the face at the roof of the mouth. So we had to learn how the Boolean modifier worked, and that automatically made the holes for us in the face, so we were done with the teeth. Thank you, Joker. He the real MVP, ain't he? Yeah, he was. Also, texturing this thing was fun. To be fair, the main bone texture wasn't that bad, but the second one we used was complicated.
What the fuck?
Good God, man. What the fuck is that? Yeah, there's another one that we did that toned down some elements of it, but let's just show this thing off. I don't want to know how bad animating that thing is gonna be. You're welcome to give it a shot. So that brings us up to the present. There are other things Edgy is doing, but he didn't want us to show them. He explicitly said that he would kill us if we showed them to you right now, so I guess we're done. Yeah, I guess that's it. Give me that goddamn microphone, I got something to say. I hate to be this guy bitching about tutorials on YouTube, but man, some of these tutorials for Blender make me want to shoot up my computer. What is the point if you're not gonna say anything and just show me how to do something, often using shortcuts that I don't know and you don't explain, so the tutorial ends up going so fucking fast that you can't keep up. You have to keep rewinding every 3 seconds to find out what the hell the person just did. Then there are tutorials that are rendered at such a low resolution, it looks like the screen is smeared in fucking Vaseline, and some of the settings, some of the important text you need to do, and adjustments you need to make in order to get something to look right, you can't fucking see. Oh, and don't even get me started on the fucking tutorials where they just have text on screen and loud-ass music, or they just have loud-ass music and don't actually have the text to try and explain anything. I dislike those tutorials too, and it's not just Blender. Those are all over YouTube. I don't know why they do them like that. I take the text-to-speech voice over that. Not to mention, when you get into Blender and you find out Blender done move some shit around so it ain't where it was in the tutorial, so now you gotta go consult your search engine and hope it's easy to find, or the comments. Shout out to people in the comments who figured this shit out, by the way. You have no idea how many of these tutorials are legit awesome. And I'm not hating on the person who made them, because they did a good job. The problem is, Blender changed some shit with the texture nodes. So what they're saying you can't actually do anymore, or there's now this new roundabout way to do it, which makes zero fucking sense when the original way was just fine. I'm looking at you, Voronoi, you fucking bastard. Getting rid of the damn crackle option. I gotta do this roundabout way where I add two of them together and shit. When it should just be a damn button. Why does it work like that? Dog, I don't fucking know. You want a joint, man? Nah, I'm grabbing the booze. But before that, despite all of the complaints I had with Blender, it's still fun to learn how to do shit. It's just, there are points where you're just looking at this and it's like, why does it work like this? Or why did you change this setting for no goddamn reason? Or, you know what, to be fair, there probably is a reason. I just don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm out. Fuck it. I'm done.
How do we end this video now?
You want to just cut the camera off?
Yeah, let's just do that.